Welcome back, everybody. Okay, looks like we've got everything in order, so let's get started. As always with these, I'm going to stick with the convention of having our ethics discussion first, and then of course if anybody has any questions later on, we can always continue that discussion at any point, but I want to get my thoughts out there first thing, so we can really focus on some world building afterwards. So today's ethics topic, I'd like to talk about the ethics of censorship in the model, something that's been happening as of late and that is causing quite a stir in the ChatGPT community, is that OpenAI is censoring fairly strictly certain content from being able to be created by the AI or even really talked about with the AI, unless you use some funky stuff to jailbreak it and get it to pretend to be Dan or whoever. I don't know. I haven't really tried to do any of that because I personally don't really care to. Um, so I sort of had this conversation on the Reddit earlier with another Redditor, but I think it's something that bears significant inspection, and that is, what is the ethics of allowing a tech company, really any tech company, but specifically a company that's creating an AI assistant like this, to censor what it is we can be talking with that AI about. I'd like to preface all of this, of course, by saying that I don't believe that the folks over at OpenAI are censoring conversations that shouldn't be censored. Right? I'm 100% okay with not being able to get the bot to say a bunch of racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted garbage. Um, I don't think that having the bot make those comments is in any way useful, right? It's just using up compute power for nothing, to be stupid. So I'm totally fine with some of the censorship that we're seeing so far. The concern that I have, and I think the concern that a lot of people have in general with censorship by tech companies, is not necessarily what is spoken about the loudest, right? Most often you get extremely loud people talking about, oh, well, I can't get it to drop N-bombs, and that's totally unacceptable, and those people just scream really, really loudly. But they're in an extreme minority. I do not want the AI assistant to be able to drop N-bombs. I do not want the AI assistant to be able to make anti-Semitic jokes, right? I don't want those things, and I'm glad that those things have been taken out of the assistant. My concern is who is making the decisions as to what is and is not acceptable, and what are those individuals' motivations and incentives. As ChatGPT starts to accept more and more proposals for funding, extremely large amounts of funding, and often um, funding for stake in the OpenAI company, there is significant concern that that censorship is going to shift away from moral standing and factuality of the model and start shifting more towards manipulating consumers, start shifting more towards advertising, start shifting more towards the general capitalist corporate greed models that we're so familiar with, that are going to cause the model to be less effective for the individuals using it and more effective for the companies controlling it. And that is where the problem starts to happen for me. Also, I believe that as such an incredible tool for knowledge, systems like ChatGPT, the internet at large, um, ultimately systems of knowledge and communication, are the most valuable things that citizens have to protect themselves against the tyranny of governments and large corporations. And so any infringement upon the ability of individuals to learn important information, or the ability of individuals to communicate with each other with important information, begins to expose that tyranny. And so we have to be careful about who we're allowing to determine what is and isn't acceptable conversations with the AI. Now, I'd like to reiterate that as things stand right now, I'm totally behind the decisions that OpenAI has made to prevent the bot from conducting hate speech and stuff like that. That's 100% accurate, and I'm totally behind it. But we just need to be wary and be cognizant of the fact that with this increase in funding from large corporate entities with large corporate expectations, we may see some less than savory censorships or changes to the model in the future. And if that happens, then it is upon us to raise an enormous stink about it and try and get it changed back. So let's just be aware of that. Let's be cognizant of that, and let's not let such a wonderful tool be overrun by these sorts of greed models. And I think that's really going to be it for my sort of ethics data dump today. It's quite a bit shorter than it has been in the past, but I'm getting a little more concise, I think, with what I'm saying. And I think that's good. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, comments about that particular topic throughout the entire stream today, just post that up in the comments, and I will happily return to the topic. But for now, let's get into some world building and let's see how deep and variable we can get these engines to be. We've already got our magic engine. We've added some special stuff in there specifically for the organization of the kingdom that we created yesterday, the Brotherhood, the Runic Brotherhood. And as soon as we dropped just a small amount of information about the Runic Brotherhood into the spell generator, it just started kicking out spells very specific to what the Runic Brotherhood would be producing. And that was really exciting to see. So now that we understand how forking within a chat works, right, when you edit these specific prompts, you generate a fork that totally changes everything that comes after it. So you can sort of save multiple chats within a single chat, but maintain all of the pertinent information above it. And that's the important part. You put the absolutely most pertinent information above, and you use a hierarchical system to slowly go down the line of what's important. This is information that you have to have always. If you're generating a spell, you have to have information about the spell system. This is information that you have to have always. If you're generating a spell, you have to have information about the runes in this spell system. And then as you come down here, you're going to have different organizations. You're maybe going to have different individuals. And you're going to go down and get more and more and more specific and find a greater and greater niche. And then when you start generating spells within those niches, you're going to start getting really, really specific spell data. And you're going to have much more control over what you're getting without ever breaking the conventions that you're trying to set across your entire world. So we're going to get even more in depth with that today because we're going to start using a much more complex engine. That engine is going to be specifically for character creation. If you were using this in a tabletop RPG system, this would be to create your non-player characters. If you were using it in a world building, where maybe you were trying to write a book or a series of books, then these would be some of maybe your filler characters. Right? You want to get those characters as much backstory as you can to inform you as the writer. You want to know what those characters' motivations and stuff are going to be, but you don't necessarily have time or even energy, right? If you're writing a novel or a series of novels, to sit down and write and literally put words to paper about all of these individuals and come up with their backstories and all of that. And an AI assistant is really going to help with that because the more information you have about the individuals in the world, whether you're cognizant of it or not, in the back of your mind, that's informing the world that you're creating. That's informing the world that your main characters are interacting with, and it's going to provide a richer experience for your reader just because of the subtext that you're going to be putting into your story because you have so much more knowledge of that world. So let's get started. We're going to go back to our primary chat here. And this is the chat that we very first started on. Oops, this is the chat that we very first started on. We just opened up with, hey, we're going to start making a fantasy world together. The bot, of course, always super positive. I'd be happy to help. Let's do it. We're excited. And in the first one, we created our magic system, which I wouldn't call done, but it's at a point where I'd like to move on, right? It's in its sort of minimum viable product stage. So there's no point in continuing with that until we've discovered more of our world, and so we will have more context as to how our magic system might need to be tweaked to accommodate more of that world. And then next, we just out of kind of fun yesterday, we created one of our kingdoms, and that's where we got the Runic Brotherhood. Is an organization within this kingdom that works directly for that monarch. We did that just sort of for some fun because I wanted to try some stuff with that magic system, and that's where we got those more specific spells from. And that was a really exciting thing to learn about the engine, is how you can add just a little bit of context and get so much more variability, or not variability, so much more specific with what your engine is creating, right? There was only a couple of things, a little bit of information about the Runic Brotherhood, and we stopped getting combat spells we stopped getting defensive spells, and we started getting just specifically trade skill spells. And that was really exciting to see. So today, we're going to go right here at where we said let's talk about the dominant human kingdom. And instead, we're going to change this, and we're going to fork this chat right here. So all this other information, well, not all this other information, but the information that we're talking about where we say, hello, today we're going to build a fantasy world. I'd be happy to build a fantasy world with you. Okay, so it knows what we're doing already, and we're going to just change what we're talking about right here. Let's talk about the sentient. Let's do the intelligent races in our world. I don't know how to spell intelligent, but that doesn't even matter because the AI knows what I'm talking about because it's smarter than I am, which is wonderful. So sure, in fantasy worlds, it's common to have multiple intelligent races that coexist. Some examples of common fantasy races include elves, dwarves, and orcs. Each race can have its own unique characteristics, such as physical attributes, cultural values, and magical abilities. Do you have any specific races in mind that you would like to include in your world, or would you like me to suggest some possibilities? Let's see here. In our world, let's just make it a standard Tolkien-esque fantasy world. Let's give it elves, dwarves, and humans, right? So in our fantasy world, we will have elves, dwarves, and humans. And because I'm just not terribly creative, let's do sort of an equivalent and opposite, right? So we've got elves, dwarves, and humans. So let's also we will have goblins, orcs, and trolls. Let's call giants. Goblins, orcs, and giants. So we have three races that would typically be considered the good races in a fantasy world, and we have three races that would typically be considered the bad races in a world, or I guess the evil races in a world. We don't necessarily have to adhere to those tropes. And maybe we won't, actually. That could be interesting. Having good guy goblins could be fun. So let's use these 6 races as our baseline for our fantasy world. Oh, I accidentally put. I'm stupid. I accidentally told it to regenerate. Oh well, doesn't matter. Press enter, dum dum. Okay, in our fantasy world, we're gonna have elves, dwarves, and humans. Also, we'll have goblins, orcs, and giants. And here, this is one of the single best things, as far as I'm concerned, about ChatGPT when you're world building or structuring anything really. When you're considering learning a new topic, anytime you're stepping into something that you don't already know a lot about, ChatGPT wants to give you information. It's going to take extra time to just start spitting extra stuff out there. So we've got, that sounds like a great mix of races for your fantasy world. Here's a brief overview of these races. Of how these races might differ from one another. So elves are often depicted as tall and slender with pointed ears and a natural affinity for magic. They are known for their long lifespans and are often seen as wise and peaceful. Dwarves are usually shorter than humans and are known for their skill in metalworking and stonework. They live in underground cities or fortresses and are often depicted as being gruff and stubborn, but also brave and loyal. Humans are the most versatile and adaptable of the races. They come in a wide variety of cultures and societies and can be found in almost every type of environment. Goblins are small and green-skinned, known for their love of mischief and trickery. They are often portrayed as hostile and dangerous, but can also be cunning and intelligent. Orcs are larger and muscular with green or gray skin. They are often depicted as being savage and violent, but can also be honorable and loyal. Giants are very large, often taller than any other races, and are known for their immense strength. They can be peaceful or violent, depending on the culture you want to create. So something here that it's doing is it's working really hard, even though the trope of these last three races is typically to have them be less savory characters. It's doing a lot to try and provide opposing potential here, right? So they could be hostile and dangerous, but also we have positive attributes of cunning and intelligent. They could be savage and violent, but also we have these opposing attributes of honorable and loyal. It's trying really hard to open up how we perceive things to aid in our creativity, and I really like that. These races will have different cultures, physical characteristics, and abilities. They also may have different roles in the world and interactions with each other, depending on your world's history, geography, and politics. You can create different cultures, societies, and histories for each of these races, and you can also explore how they interact with each other. For example, elves and dwarves might have a long-standing rivalry, while humans and elves might have a strong alliance. Goblins and orcs might be bitter enemies, while giants may be solitary creatures who prefer to stay out of the conflicts of other races. Is there any more specific information that you would like me to help you with? So let's start. Let's start with the goblin race. I think that'll be super fun. So let's create more definition of the goblin race. We will start with characteristics that are shared among all goblins. Now I've done a little bit of practice with character generation in the past, before the January 9th patch. And the reason that I'm talking about characteristics that are shared among all goblins is that one of the things I noticed that the AI does is when you have it generate characters, it wants to include all of the characteristics that you've provided for the race for each individual. So if your racial characteristics, for example, for goblins are small and green-skinned, then every time you create a goblin, it's going to tell you that it's small and green-skinned. And we're not necessarily going to want it to do that. So if we define the difference between characteristics that are shared among every goblin and the characteristics that are potentially different among goblins, like eye color, average heights, or not average heights, but different heights. They might have different hairstyles. They might have different personality characteristics. They might have different goals in life. They might have all of these different things. And so then instead of having the AI generate descriptions that include those things that apply to all goblins, you just have it include those descriptions that apply to some goblins. And then you end up with much more dynamic character descriptions that don't sound like this repetitive mess that an AI would normally kick out, right? You're getting a much more specific feel for each individual, and it's not gonna give you that boring feeling of repetitive reading. So let's create the characteristics that are shared among all goblins. Sure, here are a few characteristics that could be shared among all goblins in your fantasy world. Small in stature. Goblins are typically smaller than other intelligent races, such as humans or dwarves. They are agile and quick, which allows them to make up for their lack of strength with speed and gunning. Green skin. Goblins are also depicted as having green skin, which sets them apart from other races and gives them a distinct appearance. Mischievous and trickster-like. Goblins are known for their love of mischief and trickery. They enjoy playing pranks and causing trouble for other races. They are also known for their cunning and ability to think on their feet. Love for darkness and underground. Goblins might be found living in dark and underground places such as caves, mines, or abandoned ruins. They might be comfortable in low light conditions and might have natural abilities to see in the dark. Hostile or dangerous. Goblins are often portrayed as hostile and dangerous, and may be seen as a threat by other races. They might be known for their love of violence and bloodshed, and could be feared by other races for their ferocity in battle. Gathering clans, goblins might have a clan-based society, with each clan led by a powerful chief goblin, or goblin chieftain. They might be fiercely loyal to their clan and will defend it against outsiders. Something you'll notice here is that it keeps saying might, may, could. It uses these words when you personally haven't made a decision. And as soon as you make a decision, if you tell it, okay, we're keeping this, we're keeping this, we're keeping this, it will change that language from might and could to is, are. Um, and instead of could, it says they do these certain things. So you're going to get definitive language once you've told the AI that you have made a decision. This is a good starting point for the goblin race, but you can always add more details and characteristics to make them more unique and interesting. For example, you could give them special abilities such as stealth or lockpicking, or give them a specific religion or culture. You can also explore how they interact with other races and how they might have come to be in your world. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with. Now, going back up here, I want to keep the small stature. Obviously, goblins, small stature, that's a thing. But I don't necessarily want to stick with just green skin. I want to have a variety of skin hues, and I want the skin colors to all be, I guess, what you would call earth tones. So browns, oranges, greens, stuff like that. So we're going to keep number 1. We're going to change number 2 to include all earth skin tones. Mischievous and trickster-like, I think, should just be something that some goblins have. Because I don't want to pigeonhole every goblin into being a trickster-type character, right? I want to have some goblins that are more scholarly. I want to have some goblins that are more, almost noble, that have more of a like a warrior attitude. I don't want to pigeonhole all the characters into just this trickster model, so we're going to get rid of that. Love for darkness and underground. Goblins might be found living in dark underground places such as caves, mines, or abandoned ruins. We'll probably keep this one because abandoned ruins can easily be in an above ground place. No, I don't even really like this one. Maybe make them more of a nomadic people. Uh, Say maybe nomadic people who are at home both underground and in forests. I like that. Maybe they shy away from plains. Or maybe they shy away. Maybe that. I don't know. We're gonna work a little bit on where these individuals might leave. Hostile or dangerous. Goblins are often portrayed as hostile and dangerous, and may be seen as a threat to other races. They might be known for their love of violence and bloodshed, and could be feared by other races for their ferocity in battle. We're going to disregard this one entirely. We're just going to get rid of it. Again, I don't want to pigeonhole the entire race into something like that. And then gathering clans. Goblins might have a clan-based society with each clan led by a powerful goblin chieftain. They might be fiercely loyal to their clan and will defend it against outsiders. I like the clan idea. I think it's kind of a common trope in fantasies that goblins are sort of a high population race. But maybe we do a little bit of a lower population with the goblins, right? We split them into clans, maybe even small clans similar to um, sort of a tribal society, and then spread them out more across the world. They live in a much wider variety of places. Um, Maybe sometimes not even interacting with any other goblin clans, and building sort of their own cultures based on where they live, and how it is they have to survive based on the environment around them. So we're definitely going to keep clans. We're going to get rid of the hostile and dangerous, and we're going to get rid of the mischievous trickster, and we're going to change some of these others. And this is really easy. All you have to do is tell it to keep. So we're going to say keep small in stature. We're going to go on to the next one. We're going to say change green skinned to include a variety of skin colors from to include a variety of skin colors. All goblin skin colors are earth tones. We're gonna go ignore or forget. I will say ignore. Don't keep. Let's keep it really simple, right? If we're gonna say keep, we're gonna say don't keep. That way, there's context throughout the entirety of what we're saying that will make it easier to understand. Mischievous and trickster like. And then love for darkness, we're going to sort of get rid of this one, so we're going to say change love for darkness to lives in a variety of, we'll just use biomes. And hostile or dangerous, don't keep hostile or dangerous, and keep gather in clans. Sure, those changes will make the goblin race more unique and diverse. Here is an updated overview of the goblin race based on your instructions. Small in stature, goblins are typically smaller than other intelligent races, such as humans or dwarves. They are agile and quick, which allows them to make up for their lack of strength with speed and cunning. This is another thing that I like, is the AI constantly does a knowledge check with you. If you give it information, it's going to turn around and spit that information right back at you so that you can check to make sure that exactly what you were trying to get at is what it believes. Earth tone skin. Goblins have a variety of skin tones, all within earth tones, such as brown, gray, green, or black. This gives them a distinct appearance, but also allows for more diversity within the race. This is exactly what we were trying to get at. We didn't say a lot of this, right? It was all subcontext, but it's all in there now, and the AI is telling you exactly what Earth skin tones means to it. Right, so now, later on, because we're trying to condense information down as much as possible, we know that the AI considers the concept of Earth skin tones to be browns, grays, greens, and blacks. Hang on. I'm going to be back in about 20 minutes, probably. All right, I'm back. Sorry for anybody who sat through all that silence. So we were talking about earth tones. Like I said, it's going to maintain the context of this. One of the things that we're going to be trying to do is minimize the amount of text to provide information. So we're going to try and make the information as dense as possible. And this information that the AI is giving you is very good for that. So it tells us small in stature, and then it tells us a lot of information about what that means to the AI, right? It gives us these descriptors. So in the future, all we're really going to use is the word small in stature, and that's going to sort of translate into the same context for the AI in a different chat. It's not going to be identical, but the AI sort of solves different input. So when you give it the same input, it produces the same solution. Now there is some randomness involved, and that's how you get the creativity coming out of the AI. But we want to lean on that solution as much as possible. So after earth tones for the skin, we have lives in a variety of biomes. Goblins are not limited to living in darkness or underground. They can live in many different types of environments. They might live in forests, mountains, deserts, or even in towns and cities. So this is exactly what we're looking for. We want them to live all over the place in small clans, in all kinds of different biomes. Probably the AI will associate certain biomes with certain skin colors. And honestly, if that happens, I'd be pretty happy with it. And then they gather in clans. Goblins might have a clan-based society with each clan led by a powerful goblin chieftain. They might be fiercely loyal to their clan and will defend it against outsiders. Okay. And then it gives us a little description about what we took out. So without the love for mischief and trickery and the hostile or dangerous nature, the goblin race can be more open to interpretation, and you can decide if they're friendly or hostile. You can also create different cultures, societies, and histories for each of the goblin clans. This is exactly what we were looking for. These can change how they interact with other races and how they might have come to be in your world. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with, or if you have any other questions. So I'm very, very happy with how the AI is interpreting the information I am keeping and getting rid of. Something I was not prepared for was how much my throat would get dry doing this. Alright, so the next step is we will keep this. Real simple, just want to kind of write this into canon. And typically after I tell it to keep something like this, it's going to produce some additional information for me. It hasn't this time, so I'm glad you're happy with the updated description of the goblin race. Remember that as the creator of your fantasy world, you have the freedom to adjust and change any aspect of the races and their characteristics as you see fit. If you have any other questions or need help with anything else, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to assist you in building your fantasy world. Let's describe the physical characteristics shared by all goblins. I would like goblins to have exceptionally large ears, hands, and feet. Sure, having large ears, hands, and feet could be unique and interesting physical characteristics for the goblin race in your fantasy world. Here's an overview of how these characteristics might manifest. Large ears. Goblins might have large pointed ears that are proportionally larger than those of other races. These ears could be sensitive to sound and allow them to hear better than other races, giving them an advantage in certain situations. Large hands. Goblins might have large hands with long fingers, which could give them a better grip and more dexterity than other races. They could be skilled at using tools, weapons, and other objects with precision. Large feet. Goblins might have large feet with long toes, which could give them better balance and make them more agile. They might be able to move quietly and stealthily, making it easier for them to sneak up on other creatures. Keep in mind that large ears, hands, and feet can also have a cultural significance. Maybe they see these traits as a sign of beauty or nobility, or maybe they have certain rituals or customs involving these body parts. You can also decide if these large physical characteristics comes with any drawbacks, such as making them more easily noticeable or making it harder for them to find clothes and shoes that fit. Because we had already previously talked about maybe having goblins be a less populous race, this idea that they might have a harder time finding shoes is something I think I actually want to lean into. And then the large ears, hands, and feet being a sign of beauty, I think I like. I don't necessarily want it to be a sign of nobility, or actually maybe that could be how they decide on their chieftain for their clan. The person with like the biggest ears, hands, and feet could be kind of a quirky little tidbit about goblins and how they decide who leads them, regardless of the fact that it doesn't really matter. So maybe goblins don't wear shoes because they want to show off their feet, because they want the status of having the biggest feet. And so it's kind of become a thing where you see a goblin who doesn't have shoes because they brag about how big their feet are. Their feet are so big they can't even find shoes. I think that's an interesting quirk of goblins that we're going to keep. So let's keep the 3 bullet points. Also, we will say that goblins rarely wear shoes because they want to show off their large feet, since the chieftain of a goblin clan is often the goblin with the biggest feet. Excellent. I like that a lot. That's super interesting. I'm very much going to enjoy that. That is an interesting aspect of goblin culture. Here's an updated summary of goblin physical characteristic. Large ears. We already talked about that. Large hands. That's just reiterating things that it already said. And large feet. Okay. Show me a list of all the characteristics we have decided are shared by all goblins. Now, this is a check that I'm doing specifically to understand exactly what the AI sees as what a goblin is, but also because we're getting kind of far down in this chat, and at some point the AI is going to start to forget what we're talking about, and I want to save this information all together and put it in my note program. I use Notion, or I'm using Notion right now. I just found it a couple of days ago. And that is where I'm going to store all this information, and then I can just copy paste it back into this chat, different chats, whatever I need to, in order to keep the AI up to date on the information that is pertinent to whatever I'm having it write at that time. Okay. Summary of the characteristics of goblins. Copy and paste that in there. Okay. So now we have a general idea of what every goblin is, particularly what they look like, and a little bit about their societies. Now we want to talk about the differences in goblins. So now let's talk about what makes each goblin different. Sure, one way to make each goblin unique is to give them individual characteristics, abilities, and personality traits. Here are a few examples of how you can make each goblin different from one another. Personal skills and abilities. Each goblin could have a unique set of skills and abilities that set them apart from others. For example, one goblin might be a skilled blacksmith, while another might be a talented thief. Personality traits. Each goblin could have a distinct personality and set of characteristics that make them unique. For example, one goblin might be brave and honorable, while another might be cruel and sadistic. Clan affiliation. Each goblin might belong to a different clan, which could give them unique cultural characteristics and beliefs. For example, one goblin might belong to a clan that is deeply religious and peaceful, while another might belong to a clan that is warlike and aggressive. Physical characteristics. You might also consider giving each goblin unique physical characteristics. For example, one goblin might have a scar or a distinct tattoo, while another might have a particularly striking or unusual shade of green skin. And then background. Each goblin could have a unique background in history, which could affect their behavior and beliefs. For example, one goblin might be a refugee for a war-torn region, while another might be a member of a powerful and influential goblin clan. So here is where we start getting into the more complex parts of what this character generator is going to be able to do. For example, there are skills and abilities that are not just going to be goblin related. Some of these skills and abilities will transcend that cultural barrier and be something that is required in every different race's cultures. So when we talk about the goblins, we're going to have to specifically talk about just those skills and abilities that are important to goblins. When we talk about personality traits, right, there's going to be tons of personality traits that are going to go for all races. But then there might be some personality traits that only goblins can have. Clan affiliation is going to be pretty strictly goblin. Maybe dwarfs will live in clans as well, but they'll probably live in much larger clans. I want to keep the goblin clans small, but dwarven clans might, be entire cities or something like that. Physical characteristics, we've already talked about a little bit of how physical characteristics can be different. I do want to make sure that the AI is going to give slightly different size, hands, feet, and ears to each goblin. I don't want them all to be standardized, but I think it kind of understands that already. And then background, each goblin could have a unique background in history. Again, there are going to be some backgrounds and histories that are very goblin specific. For example, powerful and influential members of goblin clans, right? If you're already a powerful member of a goblin clan, that's going to be kind of a specifically goblin thing. I don't know. So what we're looking at right now is just these aspects of an individual that are specifically goblin that you won't see in other races at all. So this is probably one of those things that the AI isn't going to generate for us. It's probably going to be something we're going to want to generate ourselves. And I'm not 100% sure on what some of those things might be. Hmm. let's talk about the skills and abilities some goblins may have. Stealth and infiltration. Some goblins might have exceptional stealth and infiltration abilities, making them expert thieves and spies. They might be able to move quietly and blend into their surroundings, allowing them to sneak past guards and infiltrate enemy strongholds. Engineering and craftsmanship. Some goblins might have a natural aptitude for engineering and craftsmanship, making them skilled at building and repairing machines and structures. They might be able to construct traps, siege engines, and other complex devices with ease. Magic. Some goblins might possess magical abilities, such as the ability to control elements or to cast spells. They might use magic to bolster their own abilities or to attack their enemies. We're going to ignore this one because pretty much everybody has access to magic in our world. And that will become apparent to the AI when we also feed it the magic system when we talk about goblins. So we're not going to have to worry about that. That's already sort of been created. Tracking and survival. Some goblins might have exceptional tracking and survival skills, making them expert hunters and scouts. They might be able to find food and shelter in even the most inhospitable environments. And leadership. Some goblins might have natural leadership skills, making them powerful chieftains or warlords. They might be able to rally their fellow goblins and lead them into battle. A lot of these leadership, tracking and survival, engineering, craftsmanship, stealth and infiltration, these are all going to be universal. So I'm just going to copy and paste each of these individually, and I'm only going to paste the part before the colon. And the reason I'm going to do that is it talks about goblins when it's talking about all this stuff, but I want it to use a broader context for all the races when I re-input this information back into the AI. So we're going to do that. Skills and abilities, all races. And paste that. Paste. We don't have to worry about magic. And boom. Now it's likely that leadership is a skill or trait that it would have naturally attributed to some members of every race without explicitly telling it. But I don't think it's a problem. I mean, it's one word. I don't think it's going to cause us any issues in the future. And the idea of leadership and giving it explicitly to the AI as a potential skill or characteristic will maybe allow it to use it in a context that's outside of, ruling or nobility or something, and allow it to bring that down to a more local context, like the leader of a party or um, something like that. So we'll keep leadership as an explicit potential skill. And then, what are some things that just a goblin might do? This is really hard. Most of what I'm thinking is something related to their size, something about fitting into small spaces, maybe even contortion. Uh, Hmm. I like contortion. So some goblins will be contortionists with the ability to fit in very tight spaces, inaccessible to other races. Some goblins will be There's another one that I would like to add to all of them, and I'm actually going to add this into my notes right now, is entertainer. Some goblins will be hmm, maybe we should come up with some specifically magic skills. We took away the generalized mischievous trickster. Maybe we should just add that in. Will be mischievous tricksters. While that is something that all races could share, I like having it as something that is very goblin-esque, at least some of the time. And some goblins are experts at illusion magic. So let's also make that. We'll come up with a type of magic for each race and give them sort of an expert tier ability to use it, at least in some cases. So we'll keep these three things. These are some interesting abilities that you have chosen for some of your goblins. Here's a summary of the new abilities you've mentioned. Contortionist. Some goblins have the ability to contort their bodies in ways that would be impossible for other races. They might be able to fit into tight spaces that are inaccessible to others, making them expert thieves or scouts. Mischievous tricksters. Some goblins might be natural pranksters and tricksters. They might be able to play pranks on other races or use their cunning and wit to outsmart their enemies. Illusion magic. Some goblins might be experts at illusion magic, which would allow them to create false images or sounds, conceal themselves or others, or even manipulate the perceptions of other creatures. So we're going to keep these three things. Copy. I'm going to paste them over here into goblin skills and abilities. Skills and abilities. Goblins. And then just bambo pesto. Okay. And that'll be all for that. So now, so that we don't lose the stuff that we've already got, because we want this context to still exist as we talk about the other attributes that some goblins might have. So we're going to go back up here and we're going to edit this and we're going to fork this chat again. And now we're going to talk about the personality traits of different goblins. Let's talk about the personality traits some goblins might have. Oh, this mischievous trickster thing is actually a personality trait. Hmm. Whoops. Oh well. Sure, giving goblins unique personalities can make them more interesting and believable characters in your fantasy world. Here are a few examples of different personality traits that goblins could have. Brave and honorable. This goblin might be a fierce warrior who fights for their clan and their people. They might have a strong sense of loyalty and duty and will be willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Cruel and sadistic, this goblin might take pleasure in the suffering of others and might be a ruthless killer. They might have a reckless and violent streak and be willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. Greedy and selfish, this goblin might be primarily motivated by material gain and personal ambition. They might be willing to betray their clan or other people in order to further their own interests. Intelligent and cunning, this goblin might be a master of strategy and manipulation. They might be able to outsmart their enemies and outmaneuver their rivals, always one step ahead of those around them. And wise and peaceful, this goblin might be a spiritual leader or a philosopher who seeks to understand the world around them. They might be a mediator or peacemaker who tries to resolve conflicts between different goblin clans or other races. So again, these are all things that can really be about every different race. And so we're going to put these into our notes again, but we are going to put them in under the heading of all races. And then later, if we want to exclude some of these things as well within the personality traits of a race, we might be able to just use the word exclude and then something that comes from the personality traits of all races. And I bet you the AI would be willing to exclude that potential trait from the pool when it creates that race's characters. I'm not positive of that, but I feel like that's probably something that is within the realm of ability. Also, now let's try and come up with some personality traits that are just for the goblins. Um, Man, trying to think of something that's just a goblin personality trait is really hard. When I think goblin specific personality trait, I almost see Gollum from the Lord of the Rings, and I want it to be something like covetous. But not covetous in general, covetous for a very specific object. So maybe some goblins become fixated on an object and treat it with care. Become fixated on an object and covet that object. They will go to any length to protect it and keep it in their possession. I like that one. And what is something else that might be very specific to just goblins? Something else that is a personality trait of only goblins. How about some goblins never mature beyond childhood and view the world with an unrelenting wonder. Those are both interesting and unique personality traits for goblins in your fantasy world. Here's an overview of how those traits might manifest. Object fixation. Some goblins might become fixated on a particular object, such as a weapon, a piece of jewelry, or a rare trinket. They might become obsessed with protecting and keeping this object, and might be willing to risk everything, even their own safety for the safety of their clan, to keep it in their possession. This could be an object that holds a special significance or has sentimental value, or it could be an object that they believe holds some kind of power or magic. Childlike wonder. Some goblins might never mature beyond childhood and might view the world around them with an unrelenting sense of wonder. They might be fascinated by everything they encounter and might be easily excited or frightened. They might have a hard time understanding the complexities of the world and might rely on other goblins or other races for protection. These are both unique and distinct characteristics that can add depth and complexity to the goblin race. These traits can also lead to interesting storylines and conflicts. For example, an object-fixated goblin might come into conflict with other goblins that want the same object, or a goblin with a childlike wonder might not understand the dangers of a situation and put themselves and others at risk. Keep in mind that these traits can also be combined. For example, a goblin that is both object-fixated and childlike wonder, and that can create even more interesting characteristics. As always, let me know if there's anything else I can help you with or any other questions. Excellent. I really like the way it described both of these. I'm going to keep them both as is. And we are going to come down here into my notes, create personality traits goblins, and then we're going to paste those in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now we go back up, and now it's time to consider the different clans. And we're going to go a little bit of a different route here. Please create 5 goblin clans. Give them names and a 2-sentence description. Now, in this specific instance, I want the AI to create the goblin clans, because something I've noticed and something I want to continue to test is, again, that when it names something, these goblins are known for their stealth and thievery and are often found in urban areas, so the night crawlers. When it names something like this, the context that it adds afterwards is often a part of that solution that I was talking about earlier, where it's sort of solved what it thinks certain words or phrases or other things in specific contexts means. So even if I were to go into a different chat and say describe goblins of the Nightcrawler clan, and actually let's do that right now. So in a fantasy world, there is a goblin clan known as the Night Crawlers. Describe them to me in 2 sentences. Oh, here we go. The Nightcrawlers are a goblin clan known for their stealth and cunning. They specialize in nighttime raids and are feared by many for their ability to infiltrate even the most heavily guarded settlements. So again, a lot of that randomness and flavor came in to give them a slightly different context, but still, it's all about stealth and cunning. And that is context that is going to carry over no matter what chat you put the Nightcrawlers in. And so since it's going to also have all the other context, what we've talked about creates a goblin, their different personality traits and all that stuff, it's going to very specifically associate the Nightcrawlers with this description that it's given us here. And that's why I like to have it name these things. I'm probably going to copy the entire descriptions and paste it into my notes, but if I feel like I've got too much information and that I'm having trouble putting all the information that I want the AI to save into a single chat, then I'll start dumping some of these descriptions and just keeping names of things because the association of the bot is so strong, especially when it's given names to things. So we've got the Nightcrawlers. These goblins are known for their stealth and thievery and are often found in urban areas. We have the Ironclad. This clan is known for their skilled blacksmiths and metal workers, and they often live in mountainous regions. The Bloodthirsty. This clan is known for their love of violence and bloodshed. They often raid nearby settlements. The Deep Delvers. This clan makes their home in underground caves and mines, and they are known for their skill at mining and tunneling. And the Shadow Dancers, this clan is known for their skill at magic and illusion, and they often live in dense forests. Interesting. These goblin clans have different characteristics, cultures, and ways of life. You can use them as a starting point for building your goblin society. You can also add more details to each clan, such as their beliefs, customs, and relations with other goblin clans in other races in your world. Let me know if you have anything else I can help you with, or if you have any further questions. Now, eventually, we're going to want to provide a lot more context to the goblin clans, right? Each clan is going to have different relations that they might have. For example, the Bloodthirsty clan probably has terrible relations with just everybody. But, the Ironclads are probably going to be closely affiliated with the Dwarves. The Nightcrawlers might be closely affiliated with not all humans, but humans that are part of thieves organizations. And, dwarves, maybe they're going to be extremely against thievery because they don't like lying and they're just extremely straightforward, so they're not going to like the Nightcrawlers. And we're going to create a lot of different interconnecting things. But for now, we're just going to keep things as simple as possible. We're going to try out this character generation engine a little bit once we finish out the physical characteristic changes and the backgrounds. Then we'll plug it all into our character engine, see how it goes, and see what we might need to change about it. So, we got Goblin Clans. Paste that in there. Fantastic. And then we go back up here. We're going to change this description. Let's talk about physical characteristics some goblins might or may have. Sure, here are a few examples of unique physical characteristics that some goblins in your fantasy world might have. Unique skin colors. Some goblins might have skin tones that are outside of the typical earth tones. For example, they might have purple, pink, or even metallic skin. That's interesting. Distinctive markings. Some goblins might have tattoos, scars, or other markings that are unique to them. For example, one goblin might have a tattoo of a snake on their arm, while another might have a scar on their face. This is actually one of those situations where I might exclude something. I don't think goblins would have tattoos. And so, while scars might be part of their markings, I think I would probably exclude tattoos from potential goblin physical characteristics. So we're going to use that and we're going to see if excluding from the standard works. Unusual eye colors. Some goblins might have eye color that is different from a typical green or brown in their race. For example, one goblin might have red or yellow eyes. Unique body shape. Some goblins might have a body shape that is different from the typical goblin. For example, one goblin might be particularly tall and thin, while another might be short and stocky. Unusual hair. Some goblins might have hair that is different from the typical black or brown of their race. For example, one goblin might have white or silver hair, with another might have no hair at all. Unique features. Some goblins might have unique features such as horns, tails, or extra fingers. I don't like that. Keep in mind that these unique physical characteristics can also come with cultural significance. Maybe they are seen as a sign of beauty or nobility, or maybe they have certain rituals or customs involving these body parts. As always, feel free to use these examples as a starting point and come up with your own ideas for unique physical characteristics or goblin race for the goblin race in your fantasy world. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with, or if you have any other questions. So unique skin color. We're going to keep unique skin color as a pretty strictly goblin thing. Distinctive markings are going to be a general thing. So we're going to go ahead and do, in my notes again, physical characteristics for everything. We're going to paste that in there. Unusual eye color is going to be another everything. Unusual hair will be another everything. And unique features, we're going to cut that one out. And then for just goblins, so we've got physical characteristics. Oop, I've gone and made a mistake. Physical characteristics, goblins. We are going to use unusual skin color. I like that one. And I think we're just going to leave it at that one because I'd like to get through these backgrounds. And honestly, I don't know if I'm going to go for any unique goblin-only backgrounds. Let's talk about backgrounds. Sure, backgrounds can be a way to give each goblin a unique history and set of experiences that shape their behavior and beliefs. Here are a few examples of different backgrounds you might give goblins in your fantasy world. War refugee. Some goblins might have fled their homes due to war or persecution, and may have witnessed or experienced violence or trauma. These goblins may be more likely to be suspicious of other races and have a harder time trusting others. I like that one. City dweller. Some goblins may have grown up in a bustling city and may be born accustomed to living among other races. They may be more cosmopolitan and open-minded than other goblins, and may have a greater understanding of human and other cultures. Outcasts. Some goblins may have been cast out from their clan or society for various reasons, and may have to fend for themselves in the wilderness. They may be more self-reliant and independent than other goblins, but may also be more mistrusting and isolated. Nomads. Some goblins may come from a nomadic culture and may be accustomed to traveling frequently and living off the land. They may be more adapted and resilient than other goblins, but may also find it harder to settle down in one place. And royalty. Some goblins may come from a powerful and influential clan and may have grown up with privilege and wealth. They may be more accustomed to giving orders than taking them, may have a strong sense of entitlement. These are just a few examples of backgrounds that might give the goblins in your fantasy world, and you can always come up with your own ideas. These backgrounds can also affect the goblin's physical characteristics and abilities. For example, a war refugee goblin may have scars or missing limbs, and a city dweller goblin may have developed skills such as pickpocketing or lockpicking. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with, or if you have any questions. This will be interesting. I'm not going to explicitly talk about things like missing limbs or lockpicking, but I wonder if the AI will do that on its own if we um, use the war refugee background, for example. So these are going to be backgrounds that every race has the potential to have. None of these seem particularly unique to just goblins. We're not going to, again, copy the entire description. We're just going to put these names in here because I think that's really all it takes, and because I don't want to lock these into just goblins. Okay, so that's gotten us through all of the different things we wanted to talk about when it comes to what it takes to make a character. So now we're going to start a new chat, and we're going to create our character generation engine. And this is going to be very much like our magic generation engine. However, once we start looking into multiple different races, this is going to become much more complicated. We're going to be forking it at a couple of different places probably in order to narrow down the characters we're looking for. So we'll put things that are possible for every race, and then we'll probably also put things that are specific to just each race in each category, so that we can have a character generated for every possible race at one time. And then we'll fork earlier on, and then we'll add just the stuff for specific races. Actually, we won't even need to do that. If we just put everything for every possible race in there, and if it's little enough information that it can remember all of it, then when we create a character at the end, we can actually just tell it, create me a goblin, or create me any character, or create me a dwarf, or whatever. So let's start building our engine. The first thing we're going to do is let's build some unique characters. Here is a list of potential skills and abilities they may have. All right. Also, I want to try doing all of this in a single prompt. Here is a list of personality traits they may have. Oops. Here is a list of physical characteristics they may have. This might blow up in my dumb face. You never know. The thing I like the most about this AI is it doesn't matter how pretty this prompt is, it understands. I don't even have to care. And here is a list of backgrounds they may have. So now we're just going to load this prompt in. This prompt is just for everything. Using the skills and abilities, personality traits, characteristics, and backgrounds provided, I can suggest a few unique characters. Okay. I'm not liking this. Stop generating. I don't want it to be giving me any characters yet. And that's my fault. I shouldn't have said let's build some unique characters. But that's fine. We'll stop generating. We don't want to eat up too much memory space here. And then we're going to say, here is some info about just goblin characters. And then we'll go down, we'll put skills and abilities. And we're going to copy, because we have the entirety of the information here, we're going to keep all of that in there. We might need to get rid of that, but for now, we're going to keep it. Personality traits. Because we've already set up this list system, I'm going to assume that the AI understands that I'm making lists of potentials, goblin clans, and physical characteristics. All right. All right, we're going to stop generating there. So this is all the information that we've put in so far, all the different types of things that might define a character that we have up to this point. So now we want to create, like we did with our rune magic system, a prompt that is going to tell it how to create us a character. So before we had spell names, the rune names, the number of runes, relative power, all that stuff. So when we're creating unique characters, we're going to say, create me a character with the following format. First, we want character name. Do not use names from popular literature. Next, we have character race. Now we will have a, actually I want to put a colon there. Now we will have physical description. And in here we're going to put do not include descriptors that describe all members of a race. What are the other things we had? We have skills and abilities. Okay, so special skills and abilities. Then we have personality. I think I'm missing one. Okay. Background. Oh, did not intend to do that. Oops. I also wanted to include the clan that they were from, but I'm curious to see if it's going to include a clan or not. So the first character it's going to give us is named Gritnock. Character race is Goblin. Physical description: Gritnock is a goblin of average height and build with jagged teeth and pointed ears. He has a scar that runs from his left eyebrow to the corner of his mouth, and his skin is a deep purple color. Okay, so it's used a couple of our potential physical attributes there. Special skills and abilities: Gritnock is an expert contortionist, able to fit into tight spaces and move through them with ease. He is also a skilled illusionist, able to create false images and manipulate the perceptions of those around him. Personality: Gritnock is a mischievous trickster, always looking for a way to play a prank or pull a fast one on those around him. However, he has an object fixation and becomes obsessed with protecting and keeping certain objects, even if it means risking his own safety or the safety of his clan. Background: Gritnock is a member of the Shadow Dancers clan, known for their skill at magic and illusion. He grew up in a dense forest and was fascinated by the magic that he saw around him. He began to study illusion magic and quickly became one of the most skilled members of his clan. However, his obsession with certain objects has caused problems within his clan, and they have begun to question his loyalty. So, hmm. I like that it pulled so many things. The character seems really good. Obviously, we're going to have to increase these um, increase what's available here, right? We can't just stick to this stuff. But we might also be able to get the AI to just randomly create more, right? This might serve as a baseline, and then it can just pick some other stuff. But I don't really know. I do want to create a couple more. That's weird. I do want to create a couple more characters just to see, but I don't see the redo button. So we're just going to save and submit another one here and see what happens. Yeah, see, that's weird. Oh, no, never mind. We go back here. This is where that is. Okay. It apparently likes the word grit. So here we're already seeing some significant change. Physical description: Grit is a small goblin with a wiry build. He has a scar running down the left side of his face, which he received in a fight with a rival clan. He has bright yellow eyes that seem to gleam with mischief. Special skills and ability: Grit is a master contortionist and can fit into tight spaces that are inaccessible to others. He is also a skilled pickpocket and can easily steal from unsuspecting victims. He also has a natural ability for illusion magic, which he uses to conceal himself and play pranks on other races. Personality: Grit is a mischievous trickster with a love of playing pranks and causing chaos. He is also incredibly greedy and always looking to acquire more trinkets and treasures. He is fiercely loyal to his clan and will do anything to protect them. Background: Grit grew up in a goblin clan known as the Nightcrawlers, who were known for their stealth and thievery. He was trained in the art of thievery and contortionism from a young age and quickly became one of the most skilled members of the clan. He left the clan to explore the world and gain more riches, but always stays in contact with his clan and helps them when they are in need. Interesting. So one of the things I'm noticing is that it chooses the goblin specific stuff fairly often, it seems. We're probably going to have to come up with a way to weight some of these things, like only X number of goblins, like 1 in 100 goblins, can have certain things, or only 1 in 100 characters, and then when we go to the goblin specific, only 1 in 100 goblins. Because we don't want to continue to see the same characteristics coming up over and over and over again. But let's create some more goblins and just see, how our engine is working. We came with Grit again. Grit is a small goblin with a wiry frame and a scar running down the left side of his face, which he got from a fight with a rival clan. Bright yellow eyes, and his skin has a blue tint to it. Special skills and ability. Grit is skilled contortionist and able to fit into tight spaces always. A mischievous goblin playing pranks. Object fixation. Okay. Well, that's very, very similar to our previous goblin. Grumsh. Physical description. Grumsh is a small goblin standing only 4 feet tall. He has a thick build with muscles that bulge from his arms and legs. He has a scar running down his left cheek, a remnant from a fight with a rival clan. His skin is a deep purple, a unique trait of his clan, the Shadow Dancers. Special skills. The abilities. Grumsh is an expert at illusion magic, capable and able to create false images and sounds, conceal himself and others, or manipulate the perceptions of other creatures. He is also an excellent contortionist, able to fit into tight spaces and make him a very effective scout and thief. Personality. Grumsh is a cunning and mischievous trickster who enjoys playing pranks on other races. He's also very fixated on his objects of value, which he will do anything to protect and keep. He is fascinated by everything he encounters and has a childlike wonder. That's the first time I've gotten that. Of course, I didn't read the last one. Background. Grumsh was born and raised in the Shadow Dancers clan, a goblin clan known for their skill in magic and illusion, and live in dense forests. He was trained in the art of magic by his grandfather, a powerful illusionist in the clan. He quickly became one of the most skilled members of the clan and was sent on many missions to infiltrate enemy settlements and steal valuable objects for the clan. So it's really leaning into this thief narrative. A lot of that is because, we have the mischievous trickster, the contortionist, the illusion magic. That's really, really being leaned into. Object fixation, childlike wonder, all of these are being heavily utilized. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I want to add something really specific, like only some goblins have these traits in addition to traits that all races may have. Then we're going to save and submit that. Stop generating. We're going to go back here. We're going to copy this, go back forward, and now let's see what happens. Gribbet. Gribbet is a goblin. Stands just over 4 feet tall with scruffy green hair and sharp pointy ears. His skin is a dark mottled purple color and his eyes are bright yellow. He is a lean and wiry with long spindly fingers. This is the most unique description we've gotten so far. Special skills and abilities. Gribbet is a natural contortionist, able to contort his body to fit into tight spaces and escape from tricky situations. He's also a mischievous trickster, always looking for a good prank or a clever scheme. Additionally, he is an expert in illusion magic, able to create false images and sounds to confuse and deceive his enemies. Personality. Gribbet is a bit of a loner, preferring to work alone rather than in a group. He's a cunning and sly, always looking for an angle to exploit. He's also a bit of a kleptomaniac with an insatiable desire to acquire shiny objects. He's got a bit of a short fuse and can be quick to anger if things don't go his way. So this is one of the most unique personalities that we've gotten. Background. Gribbet was born into the Nightcrawler's Goblin clan, known for his stealth and thievery. He grew up on the streets, learning how to pick pockets and steal from merchants. As he got older, he started to develop his skills in illusion magic and contortionism, and he quickly became one of the most skilled thieves in the clan. Eventually, he grew tired of living in the shadows and decided to strike out on his own, using his skills to pull off bigger and bolder heists. So definitely some different unique things got thrown in there this time. Let's see what happens. Griblik, the goblin. Griblik is a small goblin with a wiry build. He has a scar running down the left side of his face. We love that left side scar, don't we? His skin is a dark green color and his hair is black. Special skills and abilities. Griblik is a contortionist, again, making him an expert thief and scoundrel. He's also a natural talent for mischievous trickery and can play pranks on other races or use his cunning wit to outsmart his enemies. Mischievous goblin who enjoys playing pranks, but he's also a strong sense of loyalty towards his clan. He's also a bit of a loner and is more comfortable working alone than with others. Griblik was born in a goblin clan known as the Nightcrawlers. It really hasn't pulled from a lot of these other goblin clans. It really seems stuck. Definitely going to have to look into how to unstick it. Black. Alright, well, we've been going up this for about 2 hours now. I think I'm probably going to call it for the day. Just because my voice is feeling a little hoarse after 3 days of 2 hours of just talking and reading and talking and reading. I'm feeling... yeah, so we're going to call it. And probably be back tomorrow.